In my DNA. 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 너와 나의 차이점. In my DNA. 어떤 요리에도 맛있어. In my DNA. 난 너무 높이 와 있어. In my DNA.
Okay, so the first time I saw that J Park DNA remix, I immediately was outraged. I'm sure many of you are either feeling something similar, maybe uncomfortable, tired of seeing this stuff. Today, I want to break down not just how we got to this point, but why you should still care that it's happening, and where we go from here. Our focus is going to be on identifying how Black visual aesthetics are caricaturized in Korean hip-hop, and we're really going to try to identify the systems and platforms that elevate these individuals. So let's get started. Let's talk about the current situation at hand. I think if we were to closely examine Korean hip-hop sonically, it is quite distinct from its American and Black origins, and what is popular today in Korea from Korean artists is pretty unique. My friend Ashley, who's Korean American and lives overseas in Korea, shared a general overview of how Korean hip-hop fits into mainstream Korean popular culture musically.
It's not the most popular, but it is pretty popular. A lot more like Korean hip hop comes on when I walk around. It's not really like the typical like hip hop that comes to mind. I think people here, when they think of hip hop, the general public kind of thinks of it as like whatever songs came out during Show Me the Money. But from a musical perspective, I don't know if all of that music fits under the genre of hip hop.
Ashley mentioned a program called Show Me the Money, a South Korean hip-hop program that started back in 2012 and was a smash hit across the country. Now, this is where we get into aesthetics. Show Me the Money and its later all-woman spin-up, Unpretty Rapster, epitomized stereotypical hip-hop culture. All the contestants are wearing urban streetwear, jewelry, braids, dreads, fros, do-rags. They've got an I don't give a fuck attitude, it's set in this grungy warehouse space, and when they pass around, they get a big gold chain. Not to mention, the contestants always feature thrown in English words like, that's what's up, or yo yo yo. And of course, I would be remiss to not inform you of the infamous Show Me the Money 3 contestant, who just straight up yelled, well, I'll just show you.
Woo! Busan! Busan, nigga! Busan, nigga!
Now, Show Me the Money is not as popular as it once was, but folks still tune in, and I think some context about South Korea and popular media and trends is super important here.
Like, I've seen a lot of popular shows come and go in Korea, and it's usually when these popular shows are airing, it's all people talk about. Like, you'll go to plans with someone, and then somehow the conversation always turns to that popular TV show. It's all everyone talks about. And it's kind of like the thing in Korea, not just with TV shows, when something is trending, everyone wants to be on it, so like be in on it, so everyone will watch it.
As you can see, trending shows are a big deal in South Korea, and just this past year, another show took the country by storm, Street Woman Fighter, a program all about professional female dancers. And if you weren't aware, hip-hop culture is not just about rap. It also includes things like dancing, graffitiing, and DJing. While there was a wide range of styles and performances, hip-hop, which is code for black, if you haven't caught on, was very present, especially in groups like La Chica. Now, I have more specific artist examples that I could give you, like how Zico's debut music video looked like this, so rappers would take him seriously because he used to be an idol, and now that he's more mainstream famous, he puts out stuff like this. Or how Queen Wasabi performed on Good Girl with the do-rag on, and all of this. Or how Jessie constantly gets called out for blackfishing but just pretends that people are just a bunch of haters. But we're here to talk about the big picture. And the big picture is that these individuals are being pushed and promoted to mainstream Korean audiences at every step of the way, and they're acting as the authority on hip-hop culture without any input from actual black people. What's being performed is essentially modern-day minstrelsy. But how did we get here? Alright, let's talk about the history of modern Korean hip-hop as well as the places that platform it, like the shows previously mentioned. I got a lot of this history section from a Vulture article as well as 2 videos by Seoul Therapy. I think they provide a lot more in-depth analysis as well as more information about the individuals who created this industry, so feel free to check those out if you want more information. So, Korea's first large-scale contact with hip-hop came in the clubs in the Itaewon neighborhood of Seoul, near the US base in Yongsan. Initially, the Itaewon clubs were open to American soldiers only as they catered to the US GIs from the Yongsan base, but by the mid-1980s, they became available for the Koreans as well. Hip-hop culture was originally focused on dance, like b-boying. One of the first hip-hop acts is also the first official K-pop groups, so Dezzy and the Boys. Their dance and performances borrowed heavily from Black American hip-hop aesthetics, and the themes of their music were very rebellious and pro-youth. Later on, Yang Hyun-suk, one of the members of the group, would go on to found YG Entertainment, one of the most influential K-pop companies, with groups like 21, Big Bang, iKON, Winner, and of course, Blackpink. Additionally, YG artists would be known for heavily borrowing from a hip-hop aesthetic. Additionally, the IMF crisis in the mid-90s called a lot of young Koreans back from abroad and further helped spread American culture. Korean Americans also were instrumental in defining the hip-hop scene. Korean Americans' English-speaking ability, American style, fashion sense, and attitude were considered a mark of their authenticity. Let's talk about Tiger JK.
With Tiger JK now considered as the godfather of Korean hip-hop, the group Drunken Tiger entered the scene in the late 90s. As a Korean American, Tiger JK was familiar with American hip-hop and brought sampling to Korea. Drunken Tiger released Year of the Tiger, one of the most controversial albums at the time. Even though Drunken Tiger did not perform choreographies like other groups and they wrote their own explicit lyrics, songs such as I Want You and Do You Know Hip Hop are now considered K-hip-hop classics. Tiger JK also formed the movement crew, which included artists such as Epic High, Isang, and YDG, who would go on to dominate mainstream hip-hop in Korea in the 2000s.
Also, his wife Yoon Mi-rae is one of the few Black artists a part of early Korean hip-hop. Now there's a lot more to cover, but to keep it short, basically, verbal jint helped transform hip-hop into a uniquely Korean cadency with the language, and then later we start to see the creation of specifically independent hip-hop labels, like Soul Company, which began to move from an underground sound. Moving into the 2010s, labels like former idol Jay Park's and Doki's Illionaire was founded. Jay Park in 2013 founded one of the most successful K-hip-hop labels, AOMG, and also in 2017 he founded Higher Music. Additionally, as previously stated, in 2012, Show Me the Money and other rap competition shows started airing, putting an even greater mainstream spotlight on Korean hip-hop. They mostly featured on Mnet, a music channel that features K-music heavily. It's owned by a private company, CJE&M. However, it is important to note that Korean government has a vested interest in the promotion of K-culture. Remember the IMF crisis I mentioned? Well, in the late 90s, when Asia went through a huge financial crisis, South Korea's leaders decided to use music to improve its image and build its cultural influence. So, the country's government poured millions of dollars into forming a Ministry of Culture with a specific department devoted to K-pop. There were 3 companies that benefited greatly from this, known in the K-pop world as the Big 3: YG Entertainment, JYP, and SM Entertainment. YG, as you'll remember, is the same company that not only borrows Black aesthetics, but its founder was one of the original members of Dezzy and the Boys. Additionally, many YG artists are respected in the hip-hop community. CL from 21, G-Dragon and T.O.P. from Big Bang, and B.I. and Bobby actually competed on Show Me the Money, and Bobby won his season. Additionally, Jay Park, who you hear has been instrumental in setting up these really impactful labels, as well as the one featured in the beginning of this video, got his start as an idol under JYP Entertainment. Additionally, the government makes regular efforts to support the K-pop industry as a whole, and by extension this benefits the whole K-music scene. This included doing things like building massive multi-million-dollar concert auditoriums, refining hologram technology, and even helping regulate norebangs or karaoke bars to protect the interests of K-pop stars. Finally, while Mnet and CJE&M are privately owned, a lot of Korean media is not. Major channels like MBC and KBS are government-run, and the large media conglomerates have a history of being very close with government officials. Well, I don't have time to get into it today, but the point I'm making is that unlike in American media and culture, the South Korean government has a much greater hand and degree of influence over it. So, now that we have an understanding of the current situation in Korean hip-hop, and the history of modern Korean hip-hop and the platforms that platform it, let's talk about why you should care about the caricaturization of Black people.
Black culture stands up. Black culture starts to speak and America gets shut down before speaking. Stop speaking, stop speaking. Be American. Take off your culture, be American. Be American. You can't take blackness off, but there is cream for that. Wait, why are you so light? Does that still make you a black girl? Be that black girl. Not that cultured or hood girl, but that good girl. Keep the good parts. I mean, like a little culture, so I can say I have that one black friend, so I can say I have that one friend. Show us your talents. Can you show me how you do your dances, how you do your dances? I mean, like those black dances, I mean, like, shouldn't you know them? I mean, like, aren't you black? I mean, like, aren't you African American? I mean, like, doesn't that make your bloodline African? So dance for me, dance for me. I mean, like, let us use you. I mean, like, see, that's a compliment. I mean, get out of your head. Speak up, speak up. Why are you not speaking up? Why are you speaking up? Do not speak. Do not speak. Don't you listen? Don't you listen? Black culture remains standing. Gets treated well in front of the camera to claim diversity, then gets slapped in the face when it's off, gets told it's for your own good, gets told, show me a talent, or show me this institution, it's your fault for speaking. What are you wearing? How? Wow, I love how exotic it is. What are you wearing? That's not appropriate for this setting. Dress right, dress neutral, match your clothing, match your clothing. Wait, why don't you ever wear your culture clothing? Do you even know your culture? Do you even know how to speak your language? What is your language? Who are you? I'm just wondering. Why do your people wear such bright colors? Why do your people do your hair that way in cornrows? Why would you get that? Why would you get that? Why would you get that? Did you see Samantha Johnson's box braids? Where do you think I can get that? Where do you think I can get that? Where do you think I can get that? Look, this is not complicated. Keep those good parts and get rid of the bad parts. Your blackness is the bad part. Your culture is the good part. Let us use you. Black culture wonders why they always retaliate with, I'm not racist. I don't use the N-word, yet they keep using niggas on the daily. Black culture then hides its shea butter because it knows if these motherfuckers try to appropriate that, this is gonna be World War III, IV, I don't know what the fuck it is gonna be, but it's gonna be something. Black culture remains standing. Black culture shuts its door. Black culture understands this poem is not about white privilege. This poem is about black culture, not giving their privilege another platform to believe our culture, our arts cares about their opinion. Our culture is everlasting. Our culture is bright and loud. Black culture says one thing and one thing only. You need black culture to justify your identity. Black culture needs no one.
In all honesty, some people may be thinking, why should I care? South Korea and how a few rappers act or what a few programs do is literally none of my business. And it's not really hurting anyone, so why should I care? And that's a fair point. So let's explain why it's important that we examine and seek to solve the way Black American culture is being represented. First, let's look at it in the lens of hip-hop culture at large, and even the rap game, quote-unquote, and let's return to the video you saw at the beginning. That was from Jay Park's DNA remix, a remix of Kendrick Lamar's song of the same title. The theme of Kendrick Lamar's song was his pride in being Black, and wildly enough, Jay Park and the rest of the rappers featured also rapped about their pride in being Korean. Here's popular K-pop reactor Dezzy reacting to this video and explaining why borrowing and appropriating these elements of what they believe to be hip-hop culture isn't just about an aesthetic.
I don't think y'all know too much about me, bro. I'm from Sacramento, California. My family, we got people who, you feel me, went to college or whatever, then we got a lot of gangbangers in my family. It's summertime in Sacramento, when summertime hits, people start dying. Rest in peace. My cousin just had a funeral the other day, and then my cousin's homies just passed away right after that. Like, it's back-to-back funerals and shit over, a lot of the times it's gang shit and stuff like that. That's why when I see this shit in the videos, I'm like, bro, what the fuck is that? Then again, I don't know if they got like street shit going on out there, if those are gang signs or if those are just, it means something else, but that shit be confusing me, bro. It'd be so weird because I don't know what the fuck is going. Somebody in the comments, let me know something. Like, are they gang members or is they just throwing shit up because they think it look cool? Because out here, that shit ain't cool. My family dying over it. The homies is dying. Like, all kinds of shit is happening behind these all this shit, bro. It's not for aesthetic.
If only to highlight this point more, Dezzy was talking a lot from a day-to-day, non-celebrity point of view. But even fame doesn't always make you safe. Rappers like Nipsey Hussle at 33, Pop Smoke at 20, King Von at 26, Young Dolph at 36, PNB Rock at 30, all lost their lives to gun violence. Just recently, Takeoff at 28 from Migos lost his life in a shooting outside of Houston in early November. And for women in rap, it's not like the world is kind to them either. Megan Thee Stallion was shot by Tory Lanez in July of 2020 and lied about it to police at the scene in order to protect both Tory and herself. Following that, she faced constant vitriol online from fans and other celebrities alike who claim that she is lying about the entire incident. Megan is constantly dehumanized, belittled, and dismissed, all while folks like to pretend that it's not about her being a physically taller, thicker, darker, and sexually confident black woman. She is given no grace, even after losing both her grandmother and her mother, not in the way that many black men or even anyone of other races are. And her experience is not unique. The reality is that a lot of these aesthetics that these rappers in South Korea are appropriating to seem cool or for some clout is part of black culture, and perpetuating that items like dreads or do-rags or even more like quote-unquote hood or ghetto black aesthetics are for only those who are rebellious or unprofessional or dangerous or aggressive or hypersexual. It further marginalizes their others and dehumanizes black people, regardless of whether these black people are actually engaging in hip-hop culture or not. And that's only one side of the coin. Now let's take a look at another reason why this is so important. Even if you don't care about the fact that real harm is done and felt by those who often embody the stereotypes that are being pushed, then maybe you'll care about what it means for the black people in South Korea. Now, when I say black, this includes even Africans, because phenotypically, we all get grouped together. I couldn't really find data on the number of people of African descent currently living in South Korea. However, as of 2021, there are currently 2.13 million foreigners living in the country, and there's an overall general population of around 51 million people. Despite a decent foreigner population, many Koreans hardly ever interact with them.
Even though there are a lot of tourists, most Koreans don't live in touristy areas and won't see these people, and B, these tourists aren't living and interacting with regular Korean people. They're going around to like cute cafes and like good restaurants, and like maybe from like 3 tables away, Korean people will see like foreigners and be like, oh, that's a foreigner, but they don't know anything. They still haven't learned anything, and they don't have opportunity to. It's very, very rare. Like if you walked into a Korean school, you would not see anyone who is not Korean in like probably 98% of the schools. There aren't many foreigners who live here from a young age, so there aren't enough young people who know and interact with like foreigners. And then since they don't have interactions with foreigners, they don't even think about like what's okay to say to like a foreigner.
And just to further my point, South Korea actually has no official laws against racial discrimination. And even those who gain a level of visibility in Korean society or try to call out injustices face scrutiny and tone policing over their outrage.
Sam Okier, self-titled as the most famous black man in Korea, criticizes blackface parody and ends up getting canceled not once, but twice. On August 6th, a 29-year-old television star shared his outrage and disappointment on his Instagram post saying, quote, "Time and time again, why won't people get that blackface is very offensive and not funny at all," about a photo of high school students in South Korea. First, the Korean public took offense by his choice of wording, with words such as educate and ignorant, which has a heavier implication of the Korean language. And also, other people were quick to call out he didn't blur the faces of these people who, obviously he has 200,000 people who follow him on an Instagram account. They may be publicly ashamed. That's where Korea got really upset. Most Koreans also felt betrayed by his remarks, portraying whole Korea as a racist country. And after a huge wave of backlash, Sam posted an apology on his Instagram.
Additionally, many black people deal with an awkward relationship surrounding their perceptions as black people in South Korea, as well as the discrimination.
What are some of the stereotypes that Koreans have of black people, and where do you think it comes from?
You know, that we're all really loud, we're all aggressive, we're all angry all the time. We all have guns or have used them or have sold drugs or do sell drugs or, you know, stuff like that. There's a lot of negative images that are put in the media, portrayed, and that are pushed out to the entire world. And then I don't know if you can even call them positive stereotypes, but let's say the less negative stereotypes that, you know, if you're black, you dress a certain way, like you dress, as they say in Korea, hip hop style, and, you know, we all like rap music and everybody can play the drums. You know what I'm saying? We all got rhythm and we all can dance.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you face because of the color of your skin, and in what type of societal setting or environments were you affected by this the most?
Sexualization as well, like, oh, you know, I heard black girls are like really good in bed, or like, oh, like I've never fucked a black girl, like I really want to try it. It's like I'm not a cookie for you to like taste and see if it tastes good. Like, I'm a human being, and I think that's what makes me the most frustrated is you would never talk to a Korean girl that way. Like, I know it for sure. I even asked like my Korean female friends, my Korean guy friends, like, have you ever had someone talk to you like this? And they're like, absolutely not, he would get slapped in the face. And I'm like, I wish I could, but the other thing is, like, if I'm ever angry or aggressive in public, then I'm the angry black woman.
And just to caveat, these black people are usually the ones living in the cities. This is not accounting for other migrant workers who may live in more rural areas, or even ones who are trying to get jobs outside of English education or businesses. Basically, maybe you should care about the portrayals of black people being pushed because these are real people, and these are real people being affected by these portrayals. People who have to interact with Koreans every single day. Now that we've looked at the issue as a whole and why you should care about it, now let's take a look at where we go from here. I saw BTS perform at the Billboard Music Awards for the first time on TV, and I thought Korean sounded cool, so I decided to teach myself the language, which led me into K-pop. The music was interesting and catchy, performances were sleek, and it was exciting. It wasn't until I was faced with a juxtaposing ideal of a joyous Christmas and the disappointing reality of a tense and unfamiliar visit home when I began to find solace in K-pop, in a boy group named 17. Despite never having had a fangirl phase when I was younger, and believing I had outgrown that age, I found myself constantly listening to their bright and cheery songs and watching their non-music content. With genuine laughter, jokes, teasing, and even petty arguments, they provided the temporary comfort I needed at the time. As you learn more about K-pop, you become aware of the industry abuses, the toxic standards, and the parasocial relationships that are built into the system. But that's a topic for another time. I say all this to say, I wasn't considering the power systems at play when I binged their variety shows for the first time. I didn't check who was actually benefiting when I played their songs in repeat and as they continued to show up as my top artists on my Spotify Wrap. When I saw them in concert in August, all I felt was a familiar comfort that helped me at one of my lowest points. As an individual, we often don't control the art or media that speaks to us from any culture. But it is important that we do learn how to do this responsibly. So what I just gave was a lot of critique, but I don't want anyone to walk away from this video thinking that the Korean hip-hop scene is one-dimensional. Like I said at the top of the video, for one, sonically, Korean hip-hop does have its own unique sound. Additionally, there are a lot of artists who don't use black aesthetics and personas. Many Korean artists do understand the history of hip-hop and relate to the struggles of poverty and discuss that in their music. And many even showed their support for the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020.
The brutal murder of George Floyd led to a bunch of artists coming forward to spread awareness to their communities. K-hip-hop artists like Dumbfounded or Higher Music were very proactive straight away. Others like DPR, Lee Young-ji, or Miso, though they took weeks to do so, also spread awareness through their social media.
That's why my critique was less on individuals and more on the systems and the platforms. But let's talk about where we go from here and how we move away from using black aesthetic for clout. In other words, away from appropriation and towards genuine cultural exchange. The big one that's staring us in the face are genuine collaborations. They've been happening for a while. For example, BY and Talib Kweli, G-Dragon and Missy Elliott, 17's Vernon and Toby Lou, BTS's RM and Wale, most recently BTS's RM and Anderson .Paak, as well as singers Dean and Eric Bellinger. And of course, even though this isn't a purely K-hip-hop collaboration, one of the biggest ones to date was BTS featuring Megan Thee Stallion on their Butter remix. Now, collaborations are all fine and good, and we should continue to do those. But let's also talk about accountability. Jay Park, he released an apology for his DNA remix, which now has been taken down. But I wanted to highlight this one section, where he says, Do I think it's okay for Korean rappers to have dreads? I might not necessarily agree with it, but who am I to say don't do that? Just because I don't agree with something they're doing does not mean I can't appreciate them as people. Here is the root of the issue, and this isn't to harp on Jay Park specifically, but I'm just using him as the example. If Jay Park really didn't agree with them, why did he platform them in his video? You can appreciate someone without actively platforming them. Epic High are one of the most prolific rap groups in Korean hip-hop, and they support the Black Lives Matter movement, but Tableau still judges shows like Show Me the Money. Why are these artists that appropriate Black aesthetics still continuing to get signed? Why are you continuing to go and participate in these shows, and when something happens like the Busan N-word incident and you say nothing? The artists that know better and know the history and have the platforms and visibility and respect and knowledge need to do better. If these caricatures aren't getting co-signed, eventually that'll fall out of favor. And this isn't just on the artists either. If you're a fan of these artists and they do something that's caricaturizing any culture, but in this case Black culture specifically, stop putting money in their pockets. All these artists and these networks like Mnet make an incredible profit off of Black culture. And as an individual, it's important to hold your favorite artists accountable by holding yourself accountable. Next is education at large. And I asked Ashley her thoughts on this topic as someone living in South Korea.
Korean artists know things like the basic things like you can't say the N-word, but the Korean public doesn't know that. So I think there needs to be a little like the Korean artists need to like do something and say something, you know? Like, you guys know this. Why don't they know? Why don't the people who like you know this? Like,
So you're saying, yeah, so there's kind of like, you have like American hip hop over here, and then like Korean artists who are like directly influenced by that, and then you have like the general Korean public who are like
yeah, and
not
they're
seeing
just so separate entities. Like, there were more like communication and like maybe like collabs between like the artists here, and then more educational content coming from the artists to the fans and like that kind of thing.
Now, this conversation is not just about Korean hip-hop artists doing their part to have better exchange within the hip-hop community, but for the country at large. Like so much of the world, South Korea learns largely about Black people from the media they watch. And if the media only shows them as hip-hop artists, and all the hip-hop artists they see in South Korea are doing this performance, then it makes it very difficult for any Black person of the diaspora. However, this current blind spot can be turned into an area of incredible exchange and education, with the proper intention from the artists, labels, and media companies. There's a reason that hip-hop resonates with so many people across the world. To quote Jay Park, in another section of his apology, he says, "Hip-hop makes us feel liberated and empowered. It gives us an outlet to have our voice be heard and to express ourselves in a way society might not deem fit. It gives us hope and motivation that we can switch up our situation if we put our hearts and minds to it and can make something from nothing." This video touched lightly on many topics that could be entire videos in themselves. My goal was to demonstrate the way that they are connected to speak to this larger issue, and then provide general paths forward. Do I wish I could have said more about the role money and profit plays in the role of this caricaturization? Sure. Do I want to analyze the different gender dynamics between Korean and Black folk, as well as further intra-racial dynamics? Of course. Do I feel like there are more examples and options for successful and dynamic cultural exchange? Most definitely. The point isn't to make one end-all be-all video and stop. The idea is to keep exploring, and hopefully I have made you a bit more knowledgeable and more curious on the topic. My name is Dezzy Artist, and thank you for watching.